When the mail-order bride arrived for the sheriff, he never remembered ordering her. The sun hung low over the dusty town of Redstone, casting long shadows that crept up the wooden porch of the sheriff's office. Sheriff Nate Carter was polishing his badge, a crease of worry etched into his brow. Suddenly, the door swung open with a creak, and there she stood, a woman cloaked in mystery. Her arrival felt like a thunderclap on a still day. Nate's heart raced. He never expected a mail-order bride to come knocking on his door, and he certainly never remembered placing an order. She was striking, with fiery red hair cascading down her back, and emerald eyes that gleamed like polished jade. Yet there was something unsettling about her smile, half seductive, half sinister, that sent shivers down his spine. As she stepped closer, the air thickened, ripe with unspoken secrets. "You must be Sheriff Carter," she purred, her voice smooth as silk but laced with an eerie undertone that twisted Nate's gut. How could she know his name? A twinge of doubt intruded upon his otherwise calm demeanor. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. There was an odd shimmer in her gaze, as if she held the answers to questions he hadn't even thought to ask. Yet it felt as if the room had shrunk around them, suffocating him with unseen pressure. She held a letter in her hands, crumpled and aged, a life story written in ink, and Nate felt himself drawn to it, like a moth to a flame. The mere thought of it ignited a spark of panic deep within him. Her presence sent a ripple through the small town, drawing curious glances from townsfolk gathered nearby. Whispers filled the air. Did he really order her? What secrets does she hide? Nate's mind spun with the implications. The entire community buzzed with excitement, as if they were spectators at a grand show, not wanting to miss the next big twist in this strange saga. Just then, a loud thud echoed from outside, his best friend Joe falling off his horse, clutching his chest as he grappled with shock. Was it fate, or just the bizarre spectacle of the moment? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Nate's attention snapped back to the woman. She was watching him closely, almost expectantly. The shadows deepened around them, and he felt an unsettling chill. "I need to tell you something," she whispered conspiratorially. "You're in grave danger, Sheriff." The weight of her words hung heavily between them, a taut wire ready to snap. Suddenly, it all felt very surreal, as if the ground beneath him might just give way. He cleared his throat, pulse pounding in his ears. What could she possibly mean? And more importantly, who had sent her? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of crimson, Nate's world tilted into chaos. Every instinct roared for him to turn away, but a powerful pull kept him rooted in place, facing the enigma before him. What secrets lay beneath that charming exterior? As the light faded, shadows whispered promises of revelations yet unveiled. Was she truly a bride, or something far more sinister? With tension crackling in the air, Nate's heart raced as he took a step closer to her, and to the unknown. Nate's heart hammered in his chest, and the air around him felt thick and electric. Danger? He echoed, a quizzical tension tightening his throat. The booming sound of anticipation in the town outside faded to a murmur. It was just the two of them now, ensnared in a web of uncertainty. She stepped closer, her emerald gaze piercing through him. "Yes, danger," she murmured, dropping her voice as if the very walls had ears. Just then, the wind howled, casting a chill across the room. "There are those who want you gone, Sheriff. Those who will stop at nothing to see you out of the way." "Who?" The question tumbled from his lips, chafed with disbelief. He had always been a man of respect in these parts. Enemies didn't just grow from the soil of Redstone, they were scarce, like rain in a drought. She glanced outside, then leaned in closer, her breath warm against his cheek. "Not here. We need to talk in private." The urgency in her tone felt like a punch to the gut, and Nate's instincts kicked in. He had lived long enough to know when something was off, and this felt more dangerous than any shootout he'd ever faced. That he nodded, and without another word, she led him out the back door and into the alley that ran behind the sheriff's office. The shadows lengthened, and the distant echoes of town life seemed to vanish, leaving only the two of them cloaked in a blanket of secrecy. "Do you remember a man named Victor Byers?" she asked, her voice low and trembling. Her eyes darted back towards the streets, as if expecting an ambush. Nate frowned, the name rang a bell. Byers was a notorious figure from a neighboring town, involved in everything shady from cattle rustling to gambling. "Yeah, I know him." "Why?" Her voice grew even softer. "He blames you for something you didn't even do. He wants revenge, and he's coming for you." The air went icy, and a sense of foreboding gripped Nate like a vice. "What do you mean? What did I do?" The woman seemed to dance on the edge of panic. "You put his brother away last year. He's been plotting this for months." "I'm here to help you, Nate. But we need to leave town now." Her urgency ignited a fire of uncertainty in him. True, there had been whispers of revenge, but they also felt like the idle chatter of barflies with too much time on their hands. "You just got here. Why would I trust you?" "Because I'm the only shot you have," she shot back, her emerald eyes flashing with emotion. "If you stay, they'll come for you." Just then, the distant sound of hoofbeats broke the silence, pounding like thunder through the night air. A dark figure loomed at the end of the alley, and Nate felt the weight of panic descend. He turned to the woman, but the alley was empty, the night swallowing her whole. "Wait!" he shouted, but it was too late. The clattering of hooves approached, drawing closer, a malevolent force that sent a shiver down his spine. Shadows converged around him as if the darkness had decided to take shape. Now the chilling feeling that they were being watched surged in his veins, almost palpable in the heavy air. He could hear murmurings, voices he couldn't quite make out, and he felt his heart race uncontrollably. Without thinking, he turned to face the approaching horseman. A tall figure, draped in a long, dark coat, emerged from the shadows. Victor Byers. A smirk twisted his lips, and his eyes glinted with malice. "Sheriff Carter," he taunted, his voice smooth as oil. "Looking for something, are we? Or should I say someone?" Nate's resolve hardened as he felt the surge of adrenaline. The showdown was ready to unfold. But as he took a step forward, prepared to defend himself, he remembered the woman, and the warning she left hanging in the air. What was she doing? Was she a pawn in someone else's game? Why had she vanished just as danger drew near? He barely had time to catch his breath before Victor bared his teeth. "You've got three choices, Sheriff: step aside, join the audience, or become a part of the show." The tension coiled tighter around him, and Nate knew he was standing at a precipice with no clear way down. As the figure approached, Nate had an even bigger question gnawing at him. What was the truth behind that enigmatic woman, and how had she become entwined in this deadly web? But with danger closing in, he had no choice now but to confront it head-on. Nate's instincts kicked into overdrive. He clenched his fists, trying to ignore the shadow of doubt fluttering inside him. Victor's mocking tone dripped with malice, each word a blade meant to inflict pain. "You're barking up the wrong tree, Byers. I don't fear you." Victor chuckled, the sound rolling like thunder through the chilled air. "Brave words. But bravery doesn't protect you from what's to come." He motioned toward his rider, a looming silhouette that shifted and danced with every movement of the horse. "This town doesn't need a pious sheriff like you, and neither do I." Nate's throat tightened. He needed to find a way out, not just for himself but for the very idea of justice he'd sworn to uphold. Just a moment ago, he had felt unmoved, steadfast, but now doubt crept in, wrapped around him like the darkness of the alley. He was aware of how alone he was, the gravel underfoot crunching like a warning as he squared his shoulders, preparing to confront the specter of violence that threatened to unravel everything. "What do you want, Victor?" Nate shot back, forcing his voice to remain steady, ignoring the roiling anxiety tightening his stomach. "Revenge, Sheriff." "Sweet revenge," Victor answered, delight dancing in his eyes. "Your meddling has brought me nothing but loss. And we both know you can't protect yourself from the hands of fate." Before he could respond, Nate sensed a shift in the wind. The impending danger grew louder, like a caged beast ready to burst forth as that ominous figure, hidden behind shadows, drew closer. He couldn't see their face, but the weight of malice hung in the air, suffocating him. A flurry of images flashed through his mind. The woman she had been slipping through his fingers the entire time. Had she known about this? Was she part of some twisted scheme? Had she baited him into a trap of his making? "Are you really going to stand there and let them dictate your fate?" Victor asked, leaning into Nate's discomfort. "You've put me through hell, Sheriff. You're about to find out what hell looks like for you." A sudden rustle echoed down the alley, a whisper of urgency in Nate's thoughts. He had no time to consider her intentions, nor was there time for doubt. The shadows had coalesced, and now they erupted into action as the hidden rider burst forward, their face obscured but intent clear. "Now!" Victor shouted, but it was too late. The figure lunged, aiming straight for Nate. Reflex kicked in, and Nate ducked, adrenaline flooding through his veins. He could feel the rush of air as the rider missed him by a hair. "Run, Sheriff!" A voice shouted from the depths of the darkness that it was her. She emerged, eyes wild and determined, shoulder-length hair catching the moonlight like a silver thread against the night. The same emerald gaze that had put him on edge was now fixed on the chaos unfolding in front of them, a deadly dance on the edge of the abyss. "No!" Nate protested, his instinct screaming that he should protect her. This was his fight. "Get back!" But she pushed past him, eyes fierce. "Trust me. We have to go." She yanked at his arm, urgency propelling her forward. Nate felt the ground shift as the chaos erupted. Shouts filled the air, a cacophony of threats and chaos colliding. Victor's eyes flared with rage as he staggered back, yelling something Nate couldn't quite make out. It was lost in the storm raging around them. The two of them sprinted through the alley, leaping over crates and barrels, hearts pounding in synchrony. But Victor wasn't far behind, each hoofbeat thundering like a drum echoing in Nate's ears. Nate's mind raced. If she was here to help, why had she vanished just before the danger arrived? Shadows crawled along the walls, and every corner felt like a trap waiting to snap shut. "Where do we go?" Nate shouted, desperate for an answer. "Follow me. I know a place." She yelled back, glancing over her shoulder. Just then, a gunshot rang out, a deafening crack that pierced the night. Nate flinched as dust exploded from a nearby wall, and his heart dropped. They were out of time. Victor wasn't just looking for revenge, he wanted to end this. "Quick, before they catch up," she urged, pulling him toward the mouth of the alley, where the moonlight broke like a promise of salvation. But as they bolted into the street, a figure stepped in their path. Someone Nate recognized, someone he never thought would betray him. "Nowhere to run, Sheriff." With the heavy weight of betrayal hanging in the air, Nate found himself at yet another crossroads, caught between past choices and impending doom. Could he trust those he once thought loyal? Or was this all part of Victor's grand design? In the span of a breath, Nate realized that the night was just beginning to reveal its dark secrets. The figure in front of them stepped into the harsh glow of the streetlight, revealing a face Nate never thought he'd see again. It was Jared, his deputy, the one person he had trusted without hesitation. The loyalty Nate had expected now twisted into a dagger of betrayal. Jared. Nate's voice was barely above a whisper, confusion mixing with the fear racing through him. "What are you doing?" Jared's eyes gleamed with something Nate didn't recognize. Anger? Disdain? Looks like you've been digging too deep, Sheriff. You should have known better. The moonlight caught a glint of metal in Jared's hand, a gun, pointed right at Nate. The world around Nate shifted. Time slowed down as he felt the air thicken. Beside him, she gasped, taking a step back, her face pale. Jared, listen to me. Nate urged, desperation coursing through him. You don't need to do this. A cruel smile twisted Jared's lips. You think you're the good guy here? You played your part well, but it's time for a new script. I'm done following your lead. Behind them, Victor shouted, his voice slicing through the tension. You've got them cornered. Finish it. The weight of the situation crashed over Nate. Their only escape route lay behind them, blocked by the ruthless force of Victor's gang. There was nowhere to go. Panic clawed at his chest. He felt the sharp sting of betrayal, a betrayal that had come not only from Jared but from those he thought would never turn. We can still fix this. Nate pleaded, trying to claw back some remnants of reason. His heart raced as he thought of the town, the people counting on him. You don't want to do this. We're on the same side. But Jared's face hardened. You stopped believing in that the moment you tried to take Victor down. This is bigger than you understand, Sheriff. You're playing checkers while we're playing chess. The thrust of an idea gripped Nate. He needed to stall, regroup. Why now, Jared? Why turn on me? Because it's time for a new order. Your way of doing things is dead. And I plan on seeing that it stays that way. The resolve in Jared's voice was chilling, his finger resting ominously on the trigger. In that moment, Nate's resolve crystallized. He couldn't let this end here. Daniel had been his friend, and deep down, Nate still hoped he could reach the man who once stood by his side. You're not a killer, Jared. We can take Victor down together. We have a chance. The barest flicker crossed Jared's features, a hesitation, perhaps. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by steely determination. You just don't get it, do you? This isn't just about you anymore. The ground trembled beneath Nate as footsteps echoed behind Jared. Victor and his gang were closing in, the hunter was now the hunted. What's it going to be? Jared's voice was taut with anticipation, and all at once, Nate could almost sense the weight of his next decision pulling him down like a stone. That he glanced over at her, whose wide eyes held a mix of fear and fierce loyalty. There was no escape route left. Stand behind me, he instructed her, the calm fighting against the storm inside him. Are you crazy? She hissed, instinct kicking in. We have to buy time, he whispered, barely meeting her gaze. Promise me you'll trust me. With an uncertain nod, she stepped closer to him. As the chaos began to swirl, a voice in Nate's mind rang clear. This moment could define everything, on this precarious edge between life and death. Whatever happens, Jared, it doesn't have to end like this, Nate said, his heart pounding in his throat. We can walk away and put this behind us. But the icy determination glistening in Jared's eyes said otherwise. He took a small step closer, gun unwavering, when suddenly a loud crack shattered the night, a gunshot echoing through the alley, aimed not at Nate, but at Jared. The clamor hit like a freight train, swirling chaos erupting around them, darkness spilling into light. Jared! Nate shouted as his deputy stumbled back. Nate couldn't process what was happening. Whoever had fired that shot created an unexpected rift in the tension. But for whom? And at what cost? Drawing breath into shaky lungs, Nate's eyes darted across the street as a shadow emerged from the opposite direction. A figure cloaked in darkness, steady and relentless, an enigmatic reminder that in this vicious game, victory was fluid. What have you done? Nate whispered, his heart racing at the sight. Approaching closure or more chaos awaited, and the night held its secrets tight. Dread swelled within him as uncertainty settled like dust in the air. Who could he count on now, and who would show their true colors as the storm raged around them? With his world unraveling in front of him, Nate felt the pulse of the unknown tightening at his back. Everything he thought he knew was about to change. And as the figure stepped into the wavering light, he braced himself for what was to come. The figure moved into the light, revealing a tall, imposing silhouette shrouded in a long coat that whipped around her legs as she stepped forward. A shock of red hair fell across her face, and she brushed it aside, her eyes locking onto Nate with a fierce intensity that sent a jolt through him. She held a gun too, though it was aimed at the ground, an unyielding presence in the thickening tension. "Run!" she shouted, her voice a commanding rush against the cacophony surrounding them. Nate hesitated, fear gripping him. He had never seen this woman before, and yet there was something oddly familiar in her fierce gaze. He glanced back at Jared, staggering, blood seeping through the fabric of his shirt where the bullet had struck. Time seemed to grab hold of him, every heartbeat booming in his ears as he struggled to comprehend the sudden turn of events. "Who are you?" he demanded, forcing his shaken voice to sound steady. "I'm your backup," she snapped. "Now move." Victor's men, emboldened by the chaos of Jared's condition, began to surge forward, dark figures closing in like a pack of wolves sensing their prey. Nate's instincts kicked in. Jared was still a threat. "Jared, this isn't you." he called out, trying to reach the man he once knew. But Jared only grimaced, his face twisted between pain and rage. "You were supposed to be on our side, Nate." He spat, the venom in his voice rattling Nate's nerves further. "Enough." The woman growled, taking a step closer, her gun raised now, aimed squarely at Jared. "Get him out of the way or I swear I'll finish this myself." Just then, Victor stepped forward, a malicious grin spreading across his face. "Looks like your little rescue plan just got a bit messy, Sheriff. I'm not above leaving a trail of bodies tonight." Nate felt the heat of impending danger wash over him. In a flash decision, he grabbed the woman's arm. "We need to help Jared. We don't have to kill him." Her eyes narrowed, uncertainty flickering in her expression, but desperation seized their moment. "How do you propose we do that?" "He's too far gone." Nate turned to face Jared again, his heart hammering in his chest. "We both know there's still a part of you that cares, Jared. Fight it. Come back to us." Jared's gun wavered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. But Victor's voice cut through like a knife. "This is weak, Nate. Letting sentimentality cloud your judgment will get you killed. You don't get it." Nate shouted back, hope spinning a fragile thread in the maelstrom of chaos. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about the community, about the lives at stake. We can take Victor down together." As he spoke, the crack of gunfire erupted from somewhere in the dark, causing everyone to flinch. What was that? Nate's breath caught as he scanned the alley, searching for the source. Then Nate's intuition pricked at him, like a storm on the horizon. "You two, get down." The woman shouted as she shoved Nate and herself to the ground, just as bullets splintered the wall above them. The crack of gunfire became a relentless symphony of chaos. Nate felt the heat of adrenaline surging through him. It was no longer just about him and Jared or Victor, it was a fight against everything they had built, against the very fabric of trust that had been unraveled. In the haze of bullets whizzing by and shouts echoing in the cavernous night, Nate's eyes locked onto Jared again. This was the moment. "If you're with us, now is the time," Nate cried, raising his voice above the roar of gunfire, but before anything could happen, a flash of movement caught his eye. A figure behind Victor, cloaked in darkness, surged forward, delivering a devastating blow that sent Victor crashing to the ground. Nate's breath caught. Who was this new player in the game? As confusion reigned and forces clashed around them, he realized it was chaos, but a chaos he might be able to leverage if he moved fast enough. "Jared!" Nate shouted, desperation and hope colliding. "This isn't over yet." But before he could gauge Jared's reaction, a powerful explosion erupted nearby, sending debris flying in every direction. The ground shook beneath him, and as Nate fought to regain his balance, the world went dark. Where would this explosion lead them? Would Nate reclaim the shattered pieces of his life, or was this just the beginning of an even darker game where betrayal and loyalty were about to face their ultimate test? Nate's senses were assaulted by the blinding white light that followed the explosion. The ground rumbled like a living beast, and it felt as if the very air was electrified. He blinked furiously, trying to shake off the darkness that threatened to swallow him whole. Suddenly, a strangled shout pierced the chaotic fog. "Nate!" It was the woman, her voice a beacon in the chaos. He scrambled to push himself up, the aching muscles in his limbs protesting against the effort. The faint smell of smoke hung in the air, mixing with something metallic and foul. "Where's Jared?" was the first thing that tumbled out of his mouth. Panic twisted within him as he scanned the debris. "I don't know," she shouted back, eyes wide with urgency. "We have to regroup." Fighting through the confusion, Nate stumbled to his feet. The ground was littered with shards of concrete and shattered glass, a painful reminder of how quickly lives could change. He brushed dirt from his clothes, glancing around to locate any familiar faces amidst the chaos, but then a groan. It came from behind a pile of rubble to his left. Heart hammering, Nate rushed toward the sound. "Jared!" He found him lying on the ground, blood pooling beneath him like a dark ink blot against the cracked earth. His shirt was tattered, a testament to both the previous gunfire and the recent explosion. Nate knelt beside him, the weight of urgency almost suffocating. "Stay with me, Jared," Nate urged, grabbing his shoulder. "We need to move you." Jared's breath hitched, his voice a struggling whisper. "Nate, I don't say anything." Nate interrupted, fighting back tears. "We'll get you out of here. I need you to hold on." The sudden sound of gunfire jerked Nate's attention away. He turned, instincts firing like a surge of electricity. The remaining Victor's men were regrouping, crawling from the shadows like cockroaches. The woman from before had her back to him, gun raised, firing with a deadly accuracy that left Nate in awe. She was a force, but the numbers were swarming. Nate looked back to Jared, panic threading through him. "I can't leave you here," he yelled, desperation clawing at his heart. "You have to." "I'll be fine," Jared barked, but Nate could see the truth, the frailty beneath the bravado. The end was close. "You're not fine," Nate shouted back, voice thick with emotion. "You need a hospital. You'll bleed out." Just then, the woman darted closer, her focus steely. "We have to get him out of here, now. It's our only chance." Jared pushed himself up, the movement sending a stab of pain across his face. "They won. Stop, Nate. I can't protect you both." Victor's voice echoed above the din, dripping with malice. "You think running away will save anyone?" Nate's heart raced. It was like a wicked game of catch. The tension coiled tighter until it felt as if it might snap. "Get up!" Nate shouted at Jared. "I'm done," Jared gasped, slipping back against the rubble, his strength faltering. "Get him to safety," the woman hissed, her eyes never leaving the enemy. "I'll cover you." Fear shot through Nate. "I can't leave you." "Don't be stupid. Either you go or we all die here." With gritted teeth, Nate looked back at Jared, the fear in his eyes stark against his ghostly pallor. He couldn't let him die, not like this. "Hold on," he yelled, grabbing Jared by the wrists. "With everything we have." Just as Nate pulled, an explosion blasted through the remaining structure around them, and the world tipped again. The woman's scream tore through the chaos, blending with the crashing debris that fell like rain. Nate shielded Jared with his body, praying against the storm of destruction. But when he finally looked up again, she was gone. "Where is she?" He shouted, the sounds of chaos silencing in a dread-filled pause. Focus. We have to go. Jared gasped, his voice barely a whisper. The remnants of their world crumbled around them. In the blink of an eye, everything could shatter. With one final glance into the smoldering ruins, Nate's heart sank. He had no way of knowing if she would come back. Would he have to face Victor on his own? Let us move, but... Doubts began to echo in Nate's mind. Could they make it out alive? As they stumbled forward, the shadows loomed larger, whispering fears of betrayal and despair. As he pressed on through the suffocating darkness, one thought stood out sharply: would they find a way forward, or was the darkness about to swallow them whole? Nate tightened his grip on Jared, dragging him forward through the wreckage. Every movement felt like wading through thick mud, the weight of uncertainty pulling him down. Fear raced like fire through his veins. The scene around him was unrecognizable, a shattered beauty turned grotesque under the weight of violence. Keep going, just a little further. His voice broke from the strain, desperate and hoarse. With every step, the echoes of gunfire grew closer, sharper. Nate's heart thudded harshly against his chest. He couldn't shake the grip of dread tightening around him. Thoughts of the woman Angela flashed through his mind. She had stood her ground, she had fought. But had it been enough? A surge of anguish clawed at him. Nathan clamped it down, refocusing on Jared. The blood seeping from his friend painted a dark picture of urgency. You're going to be fine. He breathed, hoping the words could somehow bend reality. The warehouse behind the stacks. Jared gasped, his voice a fragile thread. Each word thrust Nate deeper into panic. He looked around, spotting the crumbling facade of an old warehouse to their right, a jagged mouth opened wide. Shadows lurked within, cloaked in uncertainty. We can hide there. Nate nodded, barely able to think straight. They had to get away from the light, from eyes that sought them out like predators. They stumbled toward the back of the structure, just as a figure staggered out from the clouds of dust. Nate's heart froze. Angela? He called, hope grabbing at his throat like a steel grip. The woman turned, and her expression was a mix of relief and terror. Get inside. They're coming. Without waiting for acknowledgement, she darted back into the darkened doorway. Nate wasted no time. He pulled Jared along, forcing him through the threshold. The air inside was thick and musty, each breath filling his lungs with the scent of mildew and decay. It's not safe here, Jared wheezed, pressing against a wall. Just hold on. Nate shot back, placing his hands on his friend's shoulder, the pressure helping ground him. Thank you. Jared's eyes flickered weakly, gratitude mingling with pain. Nate shook his head, too fraught to speak. Instead, he scanned their surroundings. Dim outlines of pallets and boxes emerged from the gloom, a makeshift barricade that could at least slow down their pursuers. Do you have a plan? Angela's voice broke through the shroud of silence, revealing the urgency stamped across her features. I don't know. Nate snapped. The weight of uncertainty bore down on him, tightening like a vice. I just need to keep us safe. Get Jared patched up. She nodded, eyes darting around. There might be supplies in the back room. Just hold on a minute. Be careful. Nate called after her, fear clawing at his chest as she disappeared into the shadows. Nate turned back to Jared, who was pale and trembling. Just breathe, okay? Help is coming. But as the silence consumed the warehouse, Nate was struck by the sound of footsteps outside, heavy boots crunching against debris. His breath stuck in his throat, dread pooling at the base of his stomach. They were here. Stay quiet. He hissed, his voice barely above a whisper. The footsteps grew louder, moving closer. Nate felt the shadows encircle them, and his mind raced, spiraling into dark thoughts. What if they found them? What if they came for Jared? Suddenly, the door creaked, and Nate's heart thundered. Every instinct screamed at him to hide. Just as he pushed Jared into a corner, the figure of a man filled the doorway, tall and foreboding, the light behind him casting a menacing shadow. "Where are they?" Victor's voice sliced through the air, cold and commanding. Fear coursed through Nate like ice water. His heart hammered wildly. "Stay still," he whispered to Jared. Nate could feel the darkness closing in, pressing against him from all sides. Would he have to fight? In this moment, everything hinged on whether Victor would step through that door. The tension was a taut wire, ready to snap. What would happen if they pushed him too far? Victor took a step in, and the scene shifted. Nate was on the edge, teetering between hope and despair, with a singular thought vying for attention. Was this the moment they'd been waiting for, or the moment everything ended? Just then, out of the shadows, came a voice, not Victor's but one that erupted from a lingering darkness at the far corner of the warehouse. "Stop right there." A flash of light illuminated Angela's silhouette as she stood, a makeshift bandage in one hand and a knife in the other. She could barely steady herself, there was blood on her clothes, and her face was a mask of determination mixed with fear. "Get back." Nate felt a rush of relief surge through him, but it was quickly swallowed by the chilling sight of Victor, who remained unfazed, eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. "Angela, you're a fool. You think you can protect them? Get away from us. You won't take him." She shouted, her voice cracking. Jared gasped. The little strength he had seemed to flicker like a dying flame. Nate's heart raced, navigating through despair and instinct. They had to get out, but how? Victor's demeanor shifted, a predatory smile spreading across his face, as if savoring the fear that clung to them. "You think you can stand against me? You're simply buying time." He stepped closer, shifting his weight towards Angela, eyes locking on Nate. "Or do you think this is some kind of game?" Nate swallowed hard, adrenaline igniting his senses. "Back off," he shouted, but it came out more like a plea than a command. He felt the tide turn, darkness creeping into the corners of the room, closing them in tighter. Angela's grip steadied on the knife, but Nate could see her trembling. He was painfully aware that each moment was slipping away. In that instant, something primal kicked in, the urge to protect, to fight back. "Move, Nate," Angela urged, her voice a raw echo of anguish. "Go now. I'm not leaving you." He couldn't abandon her. Not now, not ever. But the distance between hope and panic was fraying, the weight of indecision pulled him deeper into despair. Victor surged forward, and Nate's instincts kicked in. He sprang to Angela's side, ready to face the man who loomed like a death sentence over them. The knife flickered in the dim light, his only weapon against the darkness that threatened to consume them. The moment felt like a slow-motion replay. Nate's lungs burned with fear, the muscles in his arms coiled tight. "Get out of here," he shouted to Jared, pushing him away. "Just run." The footsteps pounding against the warehouse floor faltered as Jared pushed away from the wall, dragging himself through the debris, desperately searching for an exit. The shadows swallowed him in seconds, then Victor lunged, and Nate lunged back. He wasn't ready to back down, the things at stake were too great. Anger surged through him, fueling his fear into something potent, a flickering flame against the encroaching void. Nate shoved Angela behind him. "You fight too," he insisted, gritting his teeth as he faced Victor. "We won't let you," but Victor was already pouncing, and the world narrowed down to the two of them, poised for collision. Every heartbeat thrummed in Nate's ears, drowning out everything else. Would they stand together, or would it all end here? Jared's echo of footsteps vanished into nothingness just as the dark smirk on Victor's lips twisted into contempt. The air crackled with tension, thick and suffocating. In that vulnerable silent moment, a thought flashed to Nate: what if victory meant not just survival, but the very act of standing up against the dark? Then the door behind him swung open with a deafening crash, revealing a silhouette, a figure both familiar and unsettling. "Freeze!" Nate's heart raced. The newcomer held a gun, a shiny weapon glinting menacingly. It could be salvation or their downfall. Who was this, really? As terror and hope clashed within him, Nate found himself faced with a choice: trust the unknown, or fight a battle already spiraling out of control. The new figure took a step forward, and Nate realized the stakes had just risen. Who were they, and would they save them or seal their fate? "Put down the knife, Angela," the voice commanded, and as the voltage of tension crackled, a chilling ultimatum echoed in Nate's mind: would they now have to choose between fighting for their lives or surrendering to an uncertain fate? Nate's breath hitched as the figure stepped out of the shadows, and he realized it was a woman he knew well. It was Mira, his neighbor, the one who always had a smile on her face and cookies in hand. But now, her expression was grim, her weapon aimed precisely at Victor. Her standing there felt like the ground beneath him had shifted into a chasm, deep and dangerous. "Drop the knife, Angela. Now!" Mira yelled, echoing the command with the force of an explosion. Nate's chest tightened. Could he truly trust her? "Get out of here, Mira!" Angela shouted back, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her resolve. Victor's demeanor shifted, the confidence in his smirk faltering as he assessed the scene. "Interesting choice," he murmured, sneering at Mira. "But you're just a little girl playing tough. Put that toy down before someone gets hurt." "Shut up." Mira's voice rang with authority. "You don't scare me, Victor." The tension in the room layered thickly, palpable and suffocating. Nate's mind raced through countless scenarios, each darker than the last. He couldn't let Victor's theatrics distract him. The man was a monster, and they were standing right in front of him. Mira's eyes flicked to Nate. He could see her silently pleading for him to step forward, but how could he? Victor was still a formidable presence, his darkness spreading like poison in the air. "Jared's gone," Nate said, fumbling his words, fear dancing behind every syllable. "We can't just stand here and wait. What's the plan?" Angela's hand shook around the knife, and Mira, noticing it, took a step closer despite the danger. "We need to split him up, distract him," she suggested, her eyes darting around the warehouse frantically for options. "We're not playing games anymore, sweetheart," Victor sneered, pockets of rage bubbling under the calm facade. "The joke's on you. You're already too late." "Shut up." Angela reacted fiercely, lunging slightly forward, her voice igniting in sheer defiance. "We can beat you together." But Victor simply chuckled, a dark, menacing sound that echoed against the cold, concrete walls. "Together? Oh, Angela, that's rich. You're out of your league. This is a game of survival. And you're all just pawns." It was a moment's pause, a heartbeat where nothing made sense, the silence bouncing around the corners of the warehouse. The air seemed heavier, saturated with their resolve but also drenched in despair. Then, breaking the tension, Victor lunged with a speed Nate hadn't expected. It was like an explosion, sending shockwaves through the room. Nate reacted instinctively, leaping to intercept him, but he tripped over a loose crate, sending him sprawling. The world flipped in chaos. "Get off him! Stay away!" Angela screamed, her voice shrill and fierce. Mira didn't hesitate. She aimed, steadying the gun despite her shaking hands. "Back away, Victor!" Her voice shook the foundation of fear, commanding the space around her. Time slowed as Nate regained his footing and scrambled to Angela's side. It felt like every second stretched into eternity. The tension crackled again, and the gun's barrel gleamed wickedly in the dim light. Would she shoot? Could she actually pull the trigger? Just then, a loud bang rang out, reverberating off the walls. The impact knocked everyone back. Did Mira fire? Was she brave enough? Confusion enveloped them, and for a split second, no one moved. Blood rushed in Nate's ears as he blinked rapidly, desperately trying to process what had just happened. And then, all at once, screams erupted, chaos unfolded. "Get down! shouted Victor as the danger shifted. Nate's heart slammed against his ribs, his mind racing with dread. He had no idea what was about to happen, but he knew there was no going back now. What had just been unleashed inside that warehouse? In the midst of turmoil and confusion, the painful realization dawned on Nate: survival isn't just a choice, it's a relentless pursuit. Would they emerge from this battle, or would Victor's reign of terror strip everything away once and for all? As dust settled and shadows shifted, Nate, Angela, and Mira would soon find themselves at a crossroads. The next move could lead them to freedom or doom. As the dust slowly settled in the dim warehouse, a chilling silence enveloped the remnants of their chaotic standoff. Victor's grip slipped, a shadow flickering across his face, as he struggled to regain composure. The echoes of chaos seemed to reach deep into Nate's bones. His heart raced, each beat laced with urgency. "Are you all right?" Nate managed, glancing at Angela. She trembled slightly but held her ground, steely resolve glimmering in her eyes. "Yeah," she said, her voice a whisper, determined yet fragile. "We have to end this. Now." Mira's gun still pointed at Victor, unwavering and fierce. "You think this is over?" She snapped back, but it was more a challenge than confidence. Victor's smirk was gone, replaced by dark amusement. "Your little game has faltered, ladies," he taunted, slowly edging back, like a predator testing the waters before attacking. "You think you can stand against me? This isn't just a fight, it's a slaughter, and you're the helpless sheep caught in the fold." Nate felt anger boiling inside him. The moment of truth was at hand. "Sheep can fight back, Victor," he growled, resolve coiling tight like a spring in his chest. "You won't take anybody from us." Victor's eyes flashed, and suddenly he lunged, but not at them. He was aiming for the back exit. The moment Nate realized, adrenaline surged within him. "No!" he shouted, leaping forward, but it was Angela's decisive action that surprised them all. "Stop!" she yelled, her voice cutting through the air like a whip. Without hesitation, she threw a heavy crate toward Victor, who stumbled back, losing momentum. In that instant, Mira fired sharp and true. The bullet met Victor's shoulder, sending him crashing to the ground with a surprised grunt. The air thickened with tension, the victory sweet and immediate. "Finish this," Nate commanded, fists clenched. They all knew that now was their chance. Angela stepped forward, knife raised, every inch of her reflecting the fierce light of honeyed resolve. "Victor," she spat, her voice low and unwavering, "you can't take us down anymore. Not ever again." Victor squinted up, a mix of pain and fury coiling together in his gaze. "You think this ends me? You think this town will stand if I fall? You'll only be igniting a bigger fire." "Go to hell," Nate growled, instinctively stepping forward, ready to protect both Angela and Mira. "You've thwarted enough lives. You're finished." The warehouse filled with an eerie silence. For a split moment, even the air seemed to hold its breath. Then it exploded. Angela lunged forward, the knife glistening deadly as she closed the distance to Victor. The man's expression shifted from anger to panic, but it was too late. Angela plunged the knife deep into his side. Victor gasped, eyes wide with disbelief, his body slumping heavily against the floor as the life ebbed from him. Nate felt a rush of chills sweep through him as the sounds around him rushed back, filling the silent void. It was over. Victor was beaten. The oppressive weight that had cast shadows over Redstone for so long was finally lifted. But what happens now? Mira asked, her gun trembling slightly in her hand, pointed at Victor's still form. Nate exhaled, the tension draining from his body. "Now," he replied, his voice steady as he thought of the future. "We need to clean house, make sure no one like him ever threatens this town again." Angela nodded, breathing heavily as she stepped back, the adrenaline starting to dissipate. "We'll stand together. No more secrets. No more isolation," she said fiercely. No more lies, Nate added, locking eyes with each of them in turn. We rebuild. Together. Jared's haunting silence hung in the air and his presence was sorely missed. But Nate felt an odd comfort knowing they had each other. Together, they were formidable. As they stepped outside, the dawn's first light broke across the horizon, a gentle pink spilling over the streets of Redstone. The fight had ended, but their battle for a peaceful future was only beginning. Nate took a breath of fresh air, a sense of warmth washing over them. He glanced back at Angela. And Mira, an unsaid promise lingering in the air. They would face whatever lay ahead together, a new chapter, forged in the fires of pain and darkness, but soaked in the glory of hope. Let us take it one day at a time, Nate whispered, envisioning the bright future they could build, and together, they stepped into the light. Now, as the story concludes, I need you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Do it now.